The night had been long, and the small-town convenience store was finally closing. Mia, a young cashier in her early 20s, was finishing her shift, counting the register, and dreaming of a warm meal and quiet evening. The fluorescent lights hummed softly, and the streets outside were almost empty until a group of rough-looking men pulled up in a dented car. Their loud laughter broke the silence as they swaggered toward the store's locked doors. Mia's heart skipped. She'd seen them before, always loud, always looking for trouble. She tried to stay calm, pretending not to notice as they pressed against the glass, knocking and shouting for her to open up. The store was officially closed, but their persistence grew louder, more impatient. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her phone, hoping to call for help, when one of them smirked and mouthed through the glass, "We know you're still in there." The parking lot felt miles wide, and Mia realized she was Eleanor, so they thought, because what those men didn't know was that a group of bikers, regular customers and friends of Mia, were still in the back of the store, finishing their late-night coffee. The thugs laughed, unaware that they were seconds away from a very unexpected turn of events. Mia took a deep breath as footsteps echoed from behind the aisles. The air grew heavy with tension, and the men outside had no idea what was coming next. Mia's pulse raced as she tried to steady her breathing. She glanced toward the back, where the low murmur of voices hinted that the bikers were still there. They weren't just any bikers, they were part of a local riding group called the Iron Hawks. Despite their rugged look, they had always treated her kindly, calling her kid and leaving generous tips whenever they stopped by after their rides. Tonight, she hadn't realized they were still inside, hidden from view behind the shelves, finishing their last round of coffee and small talk. Outside, the men kept banging on the door, their voices rising. Mia's mind flashed back to the stories she'd heard about break-ins in the area lately. She thought about her father, who always told her, "Keep your head up, kiddo. Trouble looks bigger when you act scared." But in that moment, the words felt hard to believe. Her hands shook as she quietly switched off the front lights, hoping it would make them lose interest. Just then, a shadow moved in the corner of her eye. Drox, the leader of the Iron Hawks, was standing near the aisle, watching silently. He gave her a reassuring nod, his expression calm but alert. The rest of his crew exchanged glances, sensing that something wasn't right outside. The men didn't move away. Instead, one of them started circling the side of the building. Mia's stomach tightened. Whatever was about to happen, she knew this quiet night was far from over. Mia's heart thumped louder with every second that passed. She could hear the faint scrape of footsteps outside as one of the men tested the side door. The sound sent a chill down her spine. She looked toward Jox again, who was already signaling his crew to stay quiet. The bikers exchanged quick glances. Years of riding together had made them experts at reading each other without words. Something unspoken passed between them. "Protect the girl. Stay calm. Don't act until it's time." Mia crouched behind the counter, whispering into her phone to call the police, but the signal flickered and failed. The old building always had weak reception, especially late at night. She pressed her back against the cool tiles, her mind racing. Why wouldn't they just leave? Were they after the cash, or something else? Inside, one of the younger bikers, Danny, peeked through the blinds. "They're spreading out," he murmured. "Looks like they're trying to find another way in." His voice was low, but tense. Jox gave a slow nod, his jaw tightening. He didn't like confrontation, but he wasn't about to let anyone scare a girl half his age working an honest job. Meanwhile, outside, the men argued among themselves, their muffled voices drifting through the glass. One of them pointed toward the side alley, where the store's delivery entrance stood half hidden in the shadows. Mia's breath caught as she realized what they were planning. The bikers shifted quietly into position, and the store fell into an uneasy silence just before the sound of a metal latch echoed through the night. The sound of the metal latch echoed like thunder in the quiet store. Mia froze, her breath catching in her throat. The faint creak of the back door followed, and she knew they were trying to get inside. Every instinct screamed at her to hide, but her legs felt heavy, almost glued to the floor. From the back aisle, Jox gave a slight motion to his crew, and the bikers began to spread out silently, their boots barely making a sound against the tile. The store's clock ticked steadily, every second stretching longer than the last. The humming of the fridge in the corner was the only noise breaking the tension. Then, a faint whisper came from the storage room, low voices, just on the other side of the thin wall. Mia's palms grew damp as she crouched lower behind the counter. She could hear them fumbling with the door handle, their laughter quiet but mocking. Jox moved closer to her, his presence steady and protective. "Stay down, kid," he whispered. His tone was calm, but his eyes were sharp, scanning every corner. Danny positioned himself near the storage entrance, ready for whatever came next. The other bikers exchanged silent nods, their focus fixed. Outside, the headlights from the car dimmed as someone turned them off, plunging the front of the store into deeper darkness. The glass door rattled lightly. Mia's heartbeat matched its rhythm, faster and faster. Then came the sharp sound of the back door creaking open, followed by footsteps entering the store. The footsteps grew louder, slow and deliberate, echoing through the narrow aisles. Mia could see a shadow stretch across the floor, long and unsteady under the flickering lights. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might give her away. The bikers stayed hidden, tense and ready, waiting for the right moment. But just as the door swung wider, another sound broke through the soft chime of the front entrance. Someone else had come in. Everyone froze. The thugs turned toward the noise, whispering sharply to each other. Mia's eyes darted toward the front of the store, her breath catching when she saw a man step inside. He wasn't one of the bikers. He was wearing a dark jacket with the logo of a local security company. At first, she felt a flicker of relief until she noticed the knowing look one of the intruders gave him. Her stomach dropped. They weren't strangers. The air thickened as realization spread among the bikers. This wasn't random. Someone had planned this. Maybe the men outside were a distraction while this new arrival handled what was inside. Jox's expression hardened as he pieced it together, his eyes narrowing on the so-called security guard. Mia's hands trembled as she clutched the edge of the counter. Torn between fear and disbelief, the man glanced around, pretending to check the corners, but his gaze lingered too long on the cash register. Outside, the car engine started again. Something bigger was unfolding, and Mia suddenly understood they weren't just after her. They were after the store itself. Mia's pulse hammered in her ears as the man in the security jacket stepped closer to the counter. His voice was smooth, too calm for the tension in the room. "Everything's fine," he said, forcing a smile. "Just checking things out." But the look in his eyes said otherwise. Behind him, one of the thugs slipped through the back doorway, moving quietly, but not quietly enough. Jox caught the movement and gave a small signal to his crew. Before anyone could react, a loud thud echoed through the store as Danny kicked a shelf, sending cans crashing to the floor. The sudden noise startled everyone, the perfect distraction. In that instant, the bikers stepped forward from the shadows, their presence filling the narrow aisles. Jox's voice cut through the air, steady and commanding. "You boys picked the wrong night for this." The so-called security guard froze, his confident act slipping. The thugs glanced between each other, realizing too late they were outnumbered. The bikers didn't have to say much. Their calm, united stance was enough. The sound of distant sirens began to rise. Someone must have finally called for help. Panic flashed across the men's faces as they backed toward the door, mumbling excuses as they stumbled outside. One of them dropped a small phone still recording. Jox picked it up, his brow furrowing when he saw a message on the screen. Asterisk, "Get the cash in the tapes. We'll handle the rest." Mia stared at it in shock. Whoever had sent that message wasn't one of them, it was someone she worked with. Mia stared at the phone in disbelief, her mind spinning. The message was from the assistant manager, someone she'd trusted for years. It all made sense now. The fake security guard, the coordinated timing, the sudden break-ins nearby. They hadn't just chosen the store by chance. Someone inside had planned everything. Jox handed her the phone gently. "You should show this to the cops when they arrive," he said. His tone was calm, but his eyes showed quiet anger for what she had just gone through. Moments later, flashing red and blue lights filled the parking lot. The police rushed in, questioning everyone as the thugs were taken into custody. The evidence on the phone sealed their fate, and by the end of the night, the truth came out. The assistant manager had been selling access codes to small-time criminals, using the night shifts to cover his tracks. Mia sat on the curb outside, exhausted but relieved. Jox walked over, handing her a cup of water. "You did good, kid," he said with a faint smile. "Not everyone keeps their cool when things go sideways." She smiled back, her fear slowly fading into gratitude. The store, once a place of routine and noise, now felt like a symbol of strength and loyalty. As dawn broke over the empty parking lot, Mia glanced at the bikers preparing to ride out. She realized that courage doesn't always roar, it sometimes hides in quiet hearts that refuse to back down when it matters most.